Today I'm talking with Scott McMahon. Scott is located in Columbia, Missouri, and he was a resident at Main Street Arts in June of 2018. So hello, Scott.
Hello.
Do you want to start out by just reminding people what you were doing while you were at Main Street Arts?
Sure. Yeah. So while I was there, I was making a series of images using a small, like portable camera Obscura. So just a basic box, and this one had a lens on it. So I was photographing through the projection, and then photographing that projection. So the main kind of focus of the project was photographing different structures in the area that had some sort of historic significance. And I was also at the time reading a lot about spiritualism in America, and the area very close to Clifton Springs, Hydesville is, I don't know if that's still the name of the town, but that was really the hotbed of spiritualism in America. So I went to a site there that's very historic, the Fox Sisters, where the original house used to be. It's just a foundation essentially, but it is kept up. There's a caretaker there. So that was a major influence on the project, and I kind of just let it take me in different places. I didn't have a real clear idea, but that was kind of the foundation of it. And then I was just kind of exploring different areas kind of around Clifton Springs and then a little further out. I was making at least, like one image a day. I was doing little side projects too, just kind of keep the studio work going. I was making some cyanotypes, and I think I was printing on tea bags and doing some just experimental stuff just to kind of free my mind and just, again, just kind of keep working in the studio. And the residency is great because, I teach full time. So the summers are precious, and that's really when I have the time to concentrate on work. And so just leaving for a month and not worrying about anything, it gave me that time to just focus on a project. So what else about that? Soon after, I guess it was that following fall, I did have an exhibition of that work. So I completed it. I printed all of it at the residency, but then I reprinted many of them. And so the images they're digital prints that I then layer beeswax over and remelt it, and so they kind of have this texture and dripping wax, sort of like so it looks like there are other things embedded in the work itself. So I did have a show here in Columbia, Missouri at Sager Broadus Gallery. That was, I think, in September of 2018.
You were the one to introduce me to the history of spiritualism that was like right where, close to where I even grew up. So the town of Newark is where Hydesville was located, I think, because that's a hamlet of Newark or something.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. And I'm looking now. No one can see it now, but I can see it. I can see the Hyde House, the photograph of yours that we have here, which we also had in the alumni show covered in beeswax. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
And also, you were trying to think, make sure I'm accurate in saying this. Yeah, you were the only resident to make a makeshift darkroom in the studio.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That was I think the first day I got there, I just got a bunch of black plastic and made a little room.
Yeah, made yourself a little hot box.
Yeah, sure was.
Well, I think, we had to buy a little fan for that. And so other residents have used that since, the fan at least. So
good. I'm glad.
So you told us a little bit about, where the work went after the residency. You had, a show or two. And has that theme carried through your work since that time, or have you kind of, been working on different ideas?
I would say, it has carried through different work. Even this new project I'm doing there's some kind of similarities, but I want to develop that work that I started there at the residency and maybe return and do a little more research before. And yeah, and I don't think it's a finished body of work yet, so I do want to revisit it. But
can you tell us about what's been happening in the studio for you or artistically since the whole COVID-19, pandemic and self-isolation and all of
sure.
that comes along with that?
Yeah, well, when we shifted from in-seat education to virtual education, that week we basically like cleared out stuff. Students had to leave the studios, and I knew I wouldn't have access to school and to the studio there, so I packed up a bunch of things, cameras and whatnot, but I thought I would probably just need the roll of black plastic that I used for the darkroom and a simple lens. And I had an idea to try to make a photo every day in the house and kind of bring the inside or the outside inside. And, I just thought it was a kind of a fun little visual exercise every day. But then after I made a few, and after weeks of isolation, certain things kind of set in emotionally, and I just thought it was like a kind of a beautiful way to usher in spring and to kind of reflect on just the natural beauty of the outdoors. And the camera Obscura is something that I've used for a long time, and my students, I have a camera Obscura set up in the studio at school, and so it's a teaching tool, and I wanted to kind of continue, even though we couldn't be together in the darkroom or in the studio, to like bring those foundational tools home with me and continue to be active creatively. And so yeah, I mean, I think the project isn't overtly about this pandemic, but for me it's just like it's a way to stay connected and to have something constant every day. And it's also, I'm kind of running out of ideas. Today will be day 30.
Wow, that's hard to believe. It's like,
yeah,
when you really sit back and think about how much time has passed,
yeah,
it really becomes hard to measure.
it is. And I think I started a couple days in. So yeah, anyway, so yeah, today will be day 30. And yeah, I'm just using different parts of the house. I also just moved into this house this past November, so it's kind of a fun way for me to like connect with the rooms. It sounds kind of weird, but like, yeah, just to kind of figure out the space and also like look at the outdoors in a very different way. Because the image that's projected is upside down and it's also flipped laterally, so it's very disorienting and kind of jarring way to look at a picture at first until you get used to it, and then it's really quite soothing. I mean, I could spend hours just sitting in the room that I've temporarily converted into a camera and just watch the clouds move across the frame. You can see birds fly by. Yeah. The UPS truck came through the frame yesterday, and then a jogger came through and did a couple laps. And so I could like see all this in a live projection, and it's really quite wonderful. I don't know.
It's gotta be interesting, and I guess somewhat difficult, potentially maddening, to think about all the possible images that you have, right? I mean, like every second there's subtle changes, right? So like, oh, I should have got that jogger. I should have got that UPS truck. That bird was flying in a cool way, like that's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've missed a lot of really amazing moments that, like you said, they just happen in an instant, unless you're totally set up and ready. But it's a pretty slow process. And what I'm doing is, so I'm photographing with a digital camera the projection. It's a translation of the image. It's not. I don't know if these will ever be printed, but it's a totally different look I mean, Brad, you've seen the, projections at Camera Obscura. The image itself looks so different in the actual space, of course, than a printed like facsimile of it. But it's a record. It's like, I look at it too as a record of what I was doing, what I am doing creatively during this time in history. So it's a bit of like a diary for me too.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting you say diary too, because like I saw these images at first when you started posting them on Facebook, and there's always something written about the image. And I said to you, like, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, like, oh, I don't know why I didn't really start reading the stuff that you're writing here, because I mean, it informs the photo, but not entirely. It just gives a sense of like what you're thinking about. And but it adds a whole other element to it as well. So I mean, I could see that being, a book or something along those lines too.
Yeah, I wanted to have a constant thread through the images with the text, with its like mini narrative, and it's always the the description, what room, the weather conditions, where my cat is located in the house, and then I've been adding like thoughts, like what I was thinking about. And it's not always like what I was thinking about while I was in the camera, but more often than not it is. So I'll either attach a little quote or just something absurd or something serious or something poetic. So it's just kind of a fun way to, and some of them might connect, like the quote or the poem might directly correlate with the image too, and some are a little bit more abstract, a little bit more you have to think about them a little bit more. So
yeah, I mean, people don't have to read it to appreciate what's happening, but it adds another element to kind of engage with, which I like to. All right, well,
all right,
thanks again, Scott. It's great to hear you.
You too. Awesome.
All right,
thanks, Brad.
Yes, thank you.
See you later.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.